Hello and welcome to the Cash Buyer Ninja, the ultimate guide to building a kick butt buyers list. This is Steph Davis, and I want to congratulate you on taking action and investing in this video training today. The tactics that you're about to learn in the Cash Buyer Ninja are going to put you head and shoulders above your competition, and if you implement just one or all of the strategies that you're about to learn, you are going to have a rockin' hot kick butt buyers list in no time at all. Now, before we get going, there are a couple of things that I want to point out and I want you to keep in mind as we are going through this training. First off, the strategies that I'm about to teach you are ones that actually work right now in today's market. And I know this because I am currently using them in my own business to keep my buyers list nice and hot and fresh and filled with the cash buyers who are players in my market. Okay, and I'm going to be teaching you how to do the exact same thing. But I just want you to know that these are not strategies that, maybe worked 5 years ago and they don't work anymore. They are ones that I am currently using in my own wholesaling business, and they are incredibly effective. Second, you might have to make some adjustments depending on what market you're in. For example, I'm going to be showing you some super sneaky ninja strategies for going into your online public records, doing some searches, and finding out who the players are in your market. Now, if you are not in the exact same county as I am, which is Hillsborough County in Tampa, Florida, the websites that you're going to use to accomplish this are most likely going to look a little bit different than what I am showing you. So you might have to make some adjustments depending on what market you're in. So just keep that in mind. Third, consistency is key. And this applies to many other areas of real estate investing and wholesaling. You have to keep in mind that if you want to keep your buyers list nice and hot and fresh and filled to the brim with cash buyers, repeat buyers who are ready to buy deals right now, you need to implement these strategies that I'm about to teach you on a consistent basis. Just get in the habit of doing one or two of these tactics on a weekly basis or every other week, and you will never have to worry about getting your deals sold again. You will always have a very hot buyers list. So just keep that in mind. Consistency is key. Really quick, what you are going to learn in these 4 video training modules. In module number 1, we're going to talk about why cash buyers are essential to your wholesaling business. All right, why do we focus on cash buyers as opposed to buyers who are getting conventional financing? Then we're going to talk about how to screen your buyers. Okay, once you get them on the phone, whether they're calling you or you're calling them, you need to know how to screen them so you can get all of the pertinent information from them to know exactly what they're looking for in a deal. This is very important. In modules number 2 and number 3, that is where we are going to be talking about the most effective strategies for finding buyers to add to your buyers list. This is where we're really going to get into the meat and potatoes. I'm going to go in and show you hands-on how I go do some very cool ninja searches on the internet to find out, number 1, who the players are in my market, and number 2, how to hunt them down online, find their contact information, and then get a hold of them and get them on my buyers list. In module number 4, that is the bonus module, we're going to be talking about how to turn your buyers into repeat customers. You want your buyers coming back for deal after deal after deal. So we're going to talk about how to keep them happy and how to turn them into repeat customers. I'm also going to talk about how to find an investor-friendly title company in your area. This is very important. A very important member to have on your team is an investor-friendly title company. So we're going to talk about the easiest way to find an investor-friendly title company in your area. And then finally, I know that one of the biggest fears that beginning wholesalers have when they're just getting started is how to structure the paperwork with your end buyer, how to structure the paperwork with the seller, how to put the deals together basically, and step by step when to do what. So I'm actually going to walk you through step by step how to structure a regular wholesale deal with a private seller, a wholesale deal where you can't assign it. So for example, like a bank-owned property wholesale deal, and then a wholesale deal where you're working with another wholesaler, either selling their deal to your buyer or vice versa. So I'm going to walk you through the steps involved in each one of those deals, including how to structure the paperwork, who gets what paperwork, what to do when, all of that. So let's go ahead and talk about why cash buyers in the first place. Why are wholesalers so obsessed with having cash buyers on their buyers list? Well, if you weren't aware of it already, if you are wholesaling properties, you cannot sell to conventional buyers. Now, what do I mean by conventional buyers? I mean buyers who plan on using conventional financing to purchase the deal. So say they were going to get a loan from Bank of America or Wells Fargo or someone like that. The lender will not fund the deal if it's being assigned or quick flipped. And I unfortunately found this out the hard way when I was just getting started on my second deal, I believe it was. I had a property under contract with the seller. I found an end buyer who was going to be using conventional financing. I had no idea that that wouldn't fly. Their mortgage broker told me that it was no problem. And what happened was once it got to underwriting and they saw that this contract was being assigned, they killed the deal. So if you are going to be wholesaling, you need to focus on preferably cash, just cash buyers. That's all I really like to deal with is cash buyers, but also hard money, people who are using hard money lenders, private lenders, or in some instances, there are some small local banks who will fund deals that are being assigned or quick flipped. But by and large, if you're wholesaling, you really want to focus in on those cash buyers. Why? Because they are really easy to deal with. There are not a lot of hoops to jump through compared to when you're dealing with people who are getting financing, and the cash buyers are plentiful. I know for many beginners, this is how I was when I was just getting started. I had a very hard time wrapping my mind around the fact that there were a whole bunch of people out there who just had access to a couple $100,000 or more to purchase properties. But they are out there, and I'm going to show you once we go through this training. Hopefully it will open your eyes so you can see that the cash buyers are out there everywhere if the deal is right. So as a wholesaler, you really want to focus on those cash buyers. One thing I want to point out is that many beginners are under this mistaken perception that you need to have this giant buyers list to be successful as a wholesaler. That's really not true. You want to focus on quality versus quantity when it comes to your buyers list. I know a lot of wholesalers who have a buyers list of 5,000 people, but when it comes right down to it, maybe 50 or 60, maybe not even that, of the people on that list are actually buying. So as long as you can find a handful of quality buyers who are paying cash, who are active right now, that's all you really need. So don't let that hold you back. Don't let the fact that you don't have a giant buyers list hold you back from getting out there and taking action. All it takes really is one buyer who's looking for a lot of properties, and you could be in business and make a whole lot of money just off of that one buyer, okay? All right, so let's move on and talk about screening your buyers. Now, you're going to want to refer to that official buyer questionnaire for wholesalers that came as a bonus with this training. And I recommend that you print one of those off, make a bunch of copies, and keep those handy with you at all times. That way, if a buyer calls, you can whip one of those sheets out and write down their information. That's what I do. I found that if a buyer calls me, I get all their information and I don't write it down, that I just end up forgetting it. So print some of those off and keep them with you in your car, in your office, wherever you go. I'm just going to go down the list here of the questions that I recommend you ask of your buyers when you are first screening them to find out what they're looking for. Now, keep in mind that you don't have to ask them every single question on this list. However, the more information and the more details you can get from them about what they're looking for in a deal, the better you're going to be able to serve them. So the first question, cash or financing? Are you paying cash for properties? Are you going to be getting financing? Now, the majority of the strategies that I'm going to be teaching you in this training, you're already going to know that they're a cash buyer. All right. I really focus on going into your market, finding out who the cash buyers are, and then contacting them. Okay. So most of the time, if you're using the strategies that I teach in this training, you're already going to know that they're a cash buyer. But if they're calling from some other marketing that you have out there, the first thing that you want to find out is, Are they are they paying cash for the properties? Are they going to be getting financing? Because again, if they're going to be getting conventional financing, you do not want them on your buyer's list. All right, so that would be the first and most important question to ask, unless you already know that they are indeed a cash buyer. Second, preferred parts of town. A lot of investors have certain parts of town that they really like to buy in. Also, a lot of investors have parts of town that they will not buy in. I have a lot of buyers right now. There's an area in Tampa called Sulphur Springs it's in the hood, and a lot of my buyers right now will not buy in there because they cannot keep their rentals occupied. They're having a really hard time keeping the rentals occupied. So you always want to ask, are there certain parts of town that you really like, or are there any areas that you will not buy in? Next is, how fast can you close? Now, this is important if you're dealing with someone who is going to be using a lender like a hard money lender or a private lender. Sometimes it can take a little longer for them to get all of those ducks in a row if they have a lender involved. So you want to ask them, how fast can you close? If I bring you a deal on Monday, can you close by Friday? That's important to know. Minimum square footage or bedrooms and bathrooms. Some investors on my list, they will not touch a 2-bedroom house unless it has the capability of that you could add an additional room onto it. But some investors, they want 1,000 square feet or better. They don't want anything smaller than that. So just want to kind of find out if they have any sort of requirements when it comes to square footage or minimum number of bedrooms and bathrooms. Next question would be single family only. Some investors, they only want single family properties. Some investors will do duplexes, multifamily. So you want to find that out. Typically, most of the investors you're probably going to be dealing with are going to be, they just want single family homes, but there are buyers who will do duplexes, triplexes, multifamily. So the next one is, what type of discount are you looking for? And this will often vary from investor to investor. Some might be looking for a 30% discount off of the after repaired value, some 40%. It really just depends. But I always like to ask this question because it gives me a lot better idea of where my numbers need to be if I'm bringing a deal to a certain investor. And if you are just getting started as a wholesaler, you don't know a whole lot about your market, this question right here can be very helpful in educating you as to what a deal is. So the more buyers that you talk to, once you get out there and start talking to buyers and asking them, what type of discount are you looking for? Or if I get you a deal in this neighborhood, where do my numbers need to be? And once you start talking to more and more buyers, you'll start getting a better and better idea of exactly what a deal is in specific areas. So asking this question, especially if you're just getting started, is a great way to get to know the market, to get to know what a deal is. All right. Next question is preferred construction. Now, I don't know if this applies in other markets, but here in Tampa, we have concrete block construction and wood frame. A lot of the buyers here will not buy wood frame homes. So I always ask them, do you have a preferred construction type? Will you buy block and frame homes or just block? And like I said, the majority of them just want block, or some of them will buy block and frame, but if they're buying frame, they're going to need to get it at a bigger discount. All right. Next, how many houses would you like to buy in the next 6 months? I always like to find out if this person has deep pockets, if they're looking to buy a whole bunch of properties. If so, how many? Next question, preferred method of contact. I always like to find out, once I do get a deal that fits their criteria, would they prefer that I call or email? I try and get both phone and email anyway, but some people just don't like to be bothered on the phone and they would rather just have you send an email. Some people prefer text, so I always find that out. The last question on here, this is something that you don't necessarily have to ask. I just ask this because I have run into some scenarios where my end buyer insists on using their title company to close the deal. Now, I always like to close all of my deals at my own title company because I like to be in control of the deal. I know that my title company knows what they're doing. I know that they are well versed in assignments and double closings and simultaneous closings. So it always makes me nervous when we have to do a closing somewhere else where I am not familiar with the title company. Like I said, I've run into some scenarios where the end buyer insists on using their title title company, and then their title company doesn't know what an assignment of contract is. So I like to ask up front, do you have a title company that you prefer working with, or are you fine with using my very awesome, efficient title company, Pure Title? Again, you don't have to ask that question. You don't have to get all of this information from every single buyer that you talk to. However, the more information that you can get from them, the more details you can get about what they're looking for in a deal, the better off you're going to be. And as a beginner, if you are just becoming familiar with your market, like I said, asking them these questions, particularly the one, what type of discount are you looking for? That is a fantastic way to really get to know your market. And that is why I recommend, before you go out and start marketing for deals, or before you go out and start making offers on bank-owned properties or listed properties, that you line some buyers up first, find out what they're looking for, so you have a better idea of what a deal actually is. It's just a really good way, lining some buyers up, talking to them, finding out what they're looking for in a deal. It's a great way to learn your market if you are just getting started. All right, so that wraps up module number 1. Make sure to bring a pen and paper to module number 2. We are going to jump in and start talking about the ninja strategies for finding cash buyers to add to your buyers list. I will see you over there in just a second.